Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
You're listening to My Neighbor Zuckerberg.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of My Neighbor Zuckerberg. I'm host number 1, Munaf Kapadia. I'm the Chief Eating Officer at the Bori Kitchen.
Hi, I'm host number 2, Nabil Merchant. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fixie, a home maintenance services company in Mumbai.
At My Neighbor Zuckerberg, we invite incredibly ordinary people.
Now, these guys have amazing stories of creativity and adventure.
And we're very happy to introduce Ajay. Ajay is the co-founder of Paymate. It's a transaction solution for B2B businesses.
Now, Ajay can easily be, marked as one of the pioneers in the payment space. He came up with the B2C solution pretty much when no one was looking at this space.
All right, so Ajay, if you had to describe Paymate as an elevator pitch, like a 2-liner, 4-liner, how would you describe it?
So Munaf is a huge VC and he's going to give you like $100 million right now.
Yeah. So quick history of Paymate. We started out as an out-and-out B2C company.
Okay.
Most people were not connected to the internet, no data plans.
But
everybody had text. So our solution would work on your phone because you didn't need an app. All you did was map your mobile phone to your bank account. So so we tied up with a few banks.
Right.
And you'd go to your bank and tell them you want to sign up for mobile payments,
okay,
and then map your mobile number to your bank account. This was really an elegant solution. So imagine you come to the payments page after buying something online, and all you needed to do was enter your mobile number. You'd get an IVR call instantly. Okay, and you enter your 4-digit PIN, which you set at the time of registration, and the transaction is complete. The payments made, the money would move out from your bank account and straight away go to the online. So let's say you went to rediff.com and they had a little online store and you wanted to buy something.
So now I go to the payment.
Yeah, so you go and you click what you want.
What I want.
You bought the shirt.
Correct.
And you've come to the payments page.
Correct.
You have credit card, you have net banking, and you have Paymate. Okay, and against
you have Paymate. Okay, so
Paymate
there's
an option. Yeah. So
okay,
against Paymate, you would just enter your mobile number.
Okay.
And that's it.
And say submit.
And
you get an IVR call which says
enter your
authorize your payment with Paymate, and
okay,
you'd enter your 4-digit PIN, and that was it. The transaction
and
is
the transaction will be complete.
Complete right there and then on the payments page.
Amazing, man. That's really, really amazing.
So that's the.
I think the biggest competition you had at that time was Snake.
Yeah, it was
lovely.
Yeah, but of course, and as we go along, the challenge was how you acquire customers, and at the same time, how do you acquire merchants,
right?
And how do you build that network effect? And that was something we grappled with for a few years.
Okay.
And then of course, we tried many things. And again, you also had to add banks along the way. So when you offer a service, so how many banks are on the platform on day one? How many merchants are on the platform on day one? And for the merchants, how many consumers do you already have?
Right.
Yeah.
There's always that chicken and egg sort of challenge, and which is something businesses need to solve, or you try and work in specific ecosystems where you think you can sort of get both the network of consumers as well as the merchants.
So today, in 2016, have you found that ecosystem?
Yeah, so around 2012, 11-12 is when we started dabbling in B2B payments, and we got our first break when one of the car rental companies, I'm not sure if it's Avis or Hertz, approached us to provide them a solution where they had hundreds of corporates. And those corporates had employees who were booking cars through them. And these corporates had corporate credit cards issued by the Amexes and the ICICI banks.
Corporate credit cards, correct. Okay.
And what they were doing was, at the end of a ride, they would the car rental company would call the employee and take the credit card number over the phone.
Okay.
And then punch that credit card number over a point of sale machine and process that payment. So it was a very sort of broken and unsecure way of processing a transaction.
Because you're giving credit card number information over a phone.
and the card companies were breathing down heavily on the car rental companies' necks and saying that you need to make this completely end-to-end secure. So that's when we, with our payments expertise, made sort of developed or deployed our existing platform to accept that payment all the way from the employee to the car rental company, and then talk back into the car rental company's ERP or backend systems and automate that entire process.
Lovely.
Okay.
So that was like our genesis into B2B payments. And the moment we saw that, we said, hey, this looks more interesting. This looks, unit economics and all that fall in place. We don't have to acquire customers by spending caboodles. So let's
yes, everyone. So
let's look at this more seriously.
So Ajay, one thing we need to discuss. You said caboodles, right?
Caboodles.
So to all entrepreneurs out there, please add that to your dictionary. Caboodles.
So tell me one thing, Ajay. So
Yeah.
I want to spend some more time on the solution. So I'm the car rental company.
Yeah.
There's a credit card company, and I was the end consumer.
Right.
Right, and there's Paymate, right?
Yeah.
So just walk me through how Paymate, made this solution so much more easier for the car rental company
Yeah.
and for the credit card company both, so that
Yeah. So when the car rental company would board a corporate, say for
Correct.
example Oracle or Google,
right,
and their employees would get a link via email
right,
to register their corporate cards on the platform. So
Okay.
you click on the link and enter your card details
okay,
once, and that gets captured on the platform.
right,
After that, every time, and the car rental company wants to charge the employee's card,
right.
they only have to pull up that employee's number and just assign a value and charge the card without even a second factor authentication.
Lovely.
Wow,
Like
we're
you-
having to go back to the consumer and
So
customer. and all
yeah,
that
just
stuff.
so, and they can charge the card directly themselves
Yeah,
without having any
Okay.
requirement for the consumer or the employee to do anything. So it's
Wow.
just a
Okay.
it's much like having a wallet and using
It's a B2B
Uber
wallet,
or
right?
Ola. It's a B2B
Oh,
wallet, right?
okay.
With a commercial card against it.
Right, right. And this was way back in 2012, huh?
Yeah, in 2012.
Nice.
So
Massive.
that's essentially the experience, and then all these payments go to the car rental company in T+2, so transaction plus 2 days, so they get all the
Right.
payments. Of course, the car rental space is a small,
Yeah.
so how do you? Then we looked around and said, what's happening in travel? Can we just look at travel itself? And all of a sudden we have the emergence of the low cost carriers like
Yeah.
SpiceJet and Indigo, and these guys are operating on a completely different model compared to the traditional carriers like Jet and Air India, where where there's a credit period, so the travel agent can sell and then pay 14 days later. And so they have an association and all that, and ITA.
Right.
So there are some regulations around that, and time period and credit given.
Right.
But the low cost carriers just broke that whole mold and said that, you know what, we are operating on a very low cost, low margins, no credit, pay up front and then sell down the line. So they flipped the entire model. So they required a platform again to seamlessly collect payments from thousands of businesses, process all that, end-to-end recon, top up inventories of travel agents, and essentially bring a complete
It was a huge, it was a huge problem to solve,
a
basically.
huge problem to solve. And then the moment we deployed the platform, we saw immediate results, and then boom, 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 before we knew, we were processing
All guns blazing.
all guns blazing. So that's, to us, that was the moment we felt, I wouldn't say arrived, but at least made an impact, and we were now more confident that we want to continue on the B2B path.
So you had agents using your platform. You had smaller business travel agents using your platform. And any numbers that you could help us with? So how many people were using your platforms way back in 2012 that helped you understand that, wow, this business is definitely here to stay, and you're going to be focusing only on the B2B space?
Yeah, so I think the fortunate part was, we had the airlines pushing it for us. So at a go, they had a few hundred travel agents register straight away, especially the big ones.
Wow, okay.
Including the OTAs.
Nice.
Like your Make My Trips and Clear Trips.
Register
And the
on
Yatra.
Paymate, right?
Yeah, so they would also, because
Okay.
again, the interesting part is many of these agents had corporate commercial cards themselves, and they were using those cards to effectively manage their working capital.
Right.
So all of them just jumped on the bandwagon right away
Right.
and started using it. And then we just saw the volumes just go through the roof. And today, so we have 13,000 agents,
Wow.
registered agents,
That's a ridiculously
and
large
today
number.
we're on an annualized run rate USD of over $2 billion on our platform. So that's the processing
So
volume.
Ajay is buying us dinner.
Absolutely.
You know, he's buying us already the entire restaurant here.
Social?
Social. I'm going to just spend some more time, on the journey part, because 2006, B2C, spending a good, I would say, 5 to 6 years in the B2C space,
Yep.
then making the, smart decision to go to B2B, right?
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
Paymate is doing...
It wasn't looked at as a smart decision when we decided to pay.
So, I
In
mean,
hindsight, yes.
Yeah, But yeah, so exactly that's where exactly I was coming to. 2012 B2B, because and now suddenly 2016 B2C suddenly seems to be taking the headlines because of Paytm doing what they're doing, and PayU doing what they're doing,
Sure.
and the whole demonetization actually coming into effect.
Yeah.
Right. So, what are your thoughts on this entire journey? It's a decade-long journey that you have been in the payment space, right? And that's long.
You're
That
like
is-
you're a payment
I'm
veteran.
a relic.
Yeah.
I would use the word veteran.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I mean, how is this whole, payment space panning out to be?
So at the end of the day, I think there's lots of problems to be solved, and I don't think it's winner take all. I think India's is going to be always fragmented, and,
Right.
And we've found our calling in B2B. At the same time, we as part of the payments fraternity, we always rooting for everybody to move payments from traditional methods to the digital platform,
Right.
which is an endeavor all these companies have set out to do, and there's also the fact that you have the government also pushing it, and
Correct.
so all the sort of it's we're all getting pushed in that direction.
Right. So, it's a
Which
wave
is
is
a
carrying
good-
everyone.
The wave is carrying everybody,
Right.
and I think all bunch of companies can not only survive but thrive in the Indian context and environment. So I'm not. I'm happy about what's happening even on the B2C side of it.
Lovely.
Yeah, and somewhere down the road we might attack some problem in B2C, but at this point in time we are pretty much focused on the B2B,
B2B
aspect.
side.
Yeah.
Wow. So, just diving a little more into now. So, I mean, this is amazing, right? I mean, we've heard how your story has moved from the B2C to the B2B space. How you've managed to solve problems in the payment space. What brought you to build a company in the payment space? Why did you look at the payment space so seriously and wanting to attack this entire industry?
So the initial thought or the spark was fairly innocent or simple, I would say. So this thought came to me in my earlier company, which was value-added service VAS company,
Okay.
which was catering to telecom operators and their
Okay.
wall gardens.
This was in which year?
applications. This company was the year 2004 or 5. When we had this sort of idea for payments. But essentially we thought of it as another VAS service where you allow to consumers to send money to each other. So it's
Okay.
more of a
Right.
P2P kind of a thought process.
So 2004, you were actually thinking about how to send money to each other. through a
Yeah,
mobile
because
phone?
because we were connected to the operators' billing platforms, and if you download a game, we could charge you 20 rupees, 30 rupees. So there's already some transactions happening on the platform from a monetary standpoint. So
Right.
how do we just move that from person to person?
From operator to person, from person to person.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
but then when we looked at the viability through the operator's billing platform, it was not possible
Okay.
because of the TRI taxes. So that's when we said, let's keep working on this. Let's build a platform for person to person, and then let's see how we can take it to market. So there was a back burner kind of thing, and it kept. But as we started talking to some banks, and they showed interest, that's when we said, okay, let's try to set this aside as a separate entity, and grow that. So by then it was 2006, and we had 2 leading VCs, Kleiner Perkins and Sherpalo. So the
Lovely.
VCs are re-entering the market after the .com
Okay.
Boom bust. So they're all coming back into India. It was a good time for us. So that's when we met a few VCs, and we liked a couple of them. They liked the payments idea, and that's when we, got invested in at that point. And I was, running both the companies, the VAS company as well as the payments company. And fortunately, someone came along and decided to acquire the content company,
The VAS
company, and then I could just focus on building out the payments piece.
So that decision from being the, actually selling off the VAS company and only focusing on it was definitely a gamble, right? I mean, it must have not been an easy decision. Or was it intuitive and
I think the VAS
or
business,
decision or data driven decision or something of that
the
sort?
VAS business was going through its own challenges as an industry. Also, the fact that the operators lost all their business, and it went all off deck from on deck because the way they treated the service providers or the companies providing them with solutions,
Right.
and even the revenue sharing was completely lopsided. And looking at the future of that business, it became very extremely lopsided and one-sided in
Towards
favor of the
operators,
telecom operators. So it only made sense to try and dive into something else, and payments obviously was a very interesting piece, and our hearts were pretty much set in the payments piece.
So mentally you knew. Your
Mentally
morale
we
was
knew
there.
we were going to.
Fantastic. And it's really good that it worked out that way, that someone came and acquired the VAS company.
Yeah.
So on this note, let's take a break. I'm dying to find out if the Vada Pav seller downstairs accepts Paymate as a payment mechanism. And we'll be right back.
Finding the right drink at the right place can be a big challenge. Exploring a new destination to its fullest could be a daunting task.
So tune in every Friday and listen to the Drinks and Destinations podcast with Rajita and Samira, who introduce you to the world of fine wines, beer, spirits, and travel.
You can subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Audioboom, or any other local podcast app.
Hey guys, welcome back. So we went to the Vada Pav wala and we said, Bhaiya, Paymate loge? And let's just say that Vada Pav tasted slightly different. The butter wasn't very buttery. Alright, so everyone, welcome back. Ajay, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
How long have you been an entrepreneur?
20 years. A long time. Yeah.
Do you feel odd that you have a bunch of 27-year-olds? That's your entrepreneurship years plus 7 years hosting this show today.
Yeah, I sometimes I do feel like a relic, and it's becoming increasingly difficult.
You're a relic with superpowers.
It's becoming increasingly difficult to keep pace with the
because
younger
you're so
generation.
slow and you're so fast.
No, it's the other way around.
Thank you for
actually.
upping that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the same time, when we started out, we were one of the few people who were venturing into tech and entrepreneurship.
But you were in the US at this stage of your
No,
career, you were in India.
So I came back and started my entrepreneurship journey.
Okay.
So I just did my engineering there and then came back to India. And I didn't stay back in the US I still don't know why, but I just decided to come back and say, let me come back and do something.
So you decided to let go of the American dream.
Yeah, I just ensured that I went back there every year or two
to renew
just to keep in touch. But down the road, the connection happened again. Had Valley-based investors.
Okay.
And so always been in touch with America, so to speak. But I'm very happy that I came back and
Fantastic.
started my journey in India.
I was just about to ask you that.
And it's been like we've gone through waves, right? So
Yeah.
as you said, Nabil, hardly any activity around entrepreneurship then.
Right.
But there was a point when in the internet boom phase, a lot of people came to us to build portals. And everybody wanted to become a billionaire overnight, right?
This is 1999, 2000.
Yeah. So we really thrived because I ran a web shop then.
Okay.
And we had so many companies come and build websites through us.
Right.
So and host and all that. So we had a field day because people were
Ready to
burning,
give you
burning
anything.
money, and we were just making money hand over fist. And we felt that that's going to last forever, but it just disappeared overnight.
Shopify.
Hard landing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. So you started off by building websites. That's how you started your entrepreneurship. journey in India.
Yep.
With the only Mac in India at that time.
Almost, apart from Shami, Mr. Kapoor.
Mr. Kapoor.
Yeah.
And why didn't you think about joining a company? What stopped you from? I mean, an engineer from America at that point in time with a Mac is like a very
Desirable guy.
I think I was pretty averse to the fact that to work for anybody. I was really so I think that's been in my sort of DNA, and I'll struggle. I can be broke, but I'll try and work for myself.
Fantastic.
Perhaps because I'm not, as someone put it, entrepreneurs, some of us are not fit to work for other people, so we rather find work for ourselves by setting up our own companies.
There are a lot of listeners who are aspiring entrepreneurs and people who have actually plunged into entrepreneurship, but at this stage are quite confused because they've spent a year and a half, and things may not be working out for them. So, I mean, what kind of message would you have for them right now?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's no magic formula for that.
Right.
But I think the bottom line is, if you believe in something, you keep chipping away.
Okay.
And eventually it gives, if you pursue things for long enough. In some cases, people might get lucky and things happen overnight.
Right.
But in most cases, things do take time. It's not that by nature a patient person. When we are doing our reviews with our sales teams, I'm the most impatient guy in the room, and I want everything to happen almost instantly. And why is this account not closed? And why are we lagging in revenue? So that I'm a monster in there, and just screaming and shouting, and impatience is written all over me. But then you what happens by nature is things don't ever happen on time, and if you plan for 30 days, things take 60 days or 90 days. And when you start seeing that over and over again and repeat itself, you automatically develop patience. So that's so it'll come to you automatically.
Right.
And one of the finest books I've read, there's a VC called Ben Horowitz, Andreessen Horowitz is the firm, and the book his book is titled "Hard Things About Hard Things." And I think that's I would recommend entrepreneurs to read that book. And to me, just reading the first 50 pages is such a roller coaster ride. And if I look at my journey, it's pretty much on those same lines. Mm-hmm. But it just requires a lot of gut, just staying the course, and as you say, patience. But that's developed over time. So that's a byproduct of the journey.
Did you ever lose patience? And I don't mean in a sales meeting, I mean with yourself. Did you ever feel that, hey, maybe I need to quit?
It has come to my mind a few times.
Okay. Let me rephrase this question.
Yeah.
So that one incident, one moment
Yeah.
in your 20 years that you remember so clearly,
Yeah.
that you said, what, I should not be doing this BS. I'll just take off maybe to the Maldives or...
If that happened.
If that happened, yeah. And just, start things all over again, or just, live a lot more satisfying life.
I would say even in the initial phase of the Paymates B2C existence, when we ran out of money and we were trying to survive and somehow managed to raise a little more and little more. I think in one or two of those instances, it came to a point where I thought this is not going anywhere and might as well shut this and start something else. But then you think of that before you go to bed. Then when you wake up in the morning, you think differently.
Like WTF, what the hell?
Exactly, and then you keep going at it. So, and sometimes you don't have a choice. The fact that you want to prove something, demonstrate something, it's also pride. So that also plays a major part. I'm not the right person to ask, when do you think one should, pull the plug or throw in the towel? Because I just don't know how to do it. So I'm unfit to answer those kind of questions. But I'm just saying, I just keep, going at it repeatedly and finding solutions.
And that's how you last for 20 years as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Or you thrive.
Yeah, you thrive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So who are the current entrepreneurs or other people you're mentoring? Some, are you in that position to actually help a lot of other people?
Yeah, so I'm fairly busy with what I'm doing. But that apart, I do some angel investing And by virtue of doing that, I do get to meet entrepreneurs in different spaces in the tech industry, and I do spend time with them. But at this point in time, I'm fairly busy building Paymate into the leading B2B payments company in India, which it currently is.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So what's next?
With Paymate, what do you see the next 5 years like?
So it's like this. If you look at the Indian landscape, there are 58 million small businesses.
58 million small businesses.
So we're the size of a country, and it's
Yeah.
big enough.
Yeah, seriously.
And SMEs contribute to 40% of the economy. So I think that's an area we want to play in and keep going down these verticals. And our dream is, can we be the de facto payments tool for any small business, whether they're receiving payments or sending payments? And I think that's our vision. And we've been given the opportunity. We need to go out and execute on that. So that's
Demonetization.
demonetization. Yeah.
I said it. So both of us have our own small businesses, and we promise you, Ajay, that we'll do our bit by coming on board the Paymate wagon.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'd like to wrap this up. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, if they want to find out more about Paymate, is there an address we can direct them to?
Absolutely. It's Ajay at paymate.co.in.
Lovely. And is there a website for Paymate?
Paymate.in.
Fantastic.
To get in touch with Ajay, he has offered to mentor a couple of startups, and he is always on the lookout to meet interesting people
And make investments.
So that's Ajay from Paymate.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, Ajay.
Really had a
Thank you,
great
Ajay.
time, fun time.
Thanks a lot.
Hope to
Thanks
do it
a
again
ton.
soon.
This is Nabil Merchant.
And Munaf Kapadia signing off.
That was an episode of My Neighbor Zuckerberg, brought to you by Indus Vox Media and media partners Inc. 42.
Hey man, just help me out, man. I need some podcast, man. I haven't had a fix in a week. Just need some.
Don't you worry about it. I got podcasts galore for you, man. Just go to ivmpodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna check it out.